Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is must watch. If you are makeup beginners, must watch. Today going to share my best practice for all the makeup tips in each step with you guys. If you are makeup beginners, I'm sure that I probably gone through the same journey as you guys, that searching for different videos, searching for different makeup tips, and you've seen so many of them as well. Sometimes you get a little bit confused, and sometimes when you actually try on yourself, you feel like, yeah, it's not that easy as you said. Hence today, I would like to share my best practice after trying so many different makeup tips, that what I found the most practical, easy to use, and most effective way for completing my makeup. But the one thing I need to mention that it is for beginners. If you already done your own makeups for quite a while, you already had some practice, you may feel this video is a little bit too basic for you. If that's the case, then please scroll down the list and check out some other of my videos. For primer and foundation, if you're beginners, I would recommend you to choose a better and more expensive primer rather than foundations. The reason being, very expensive foundations, very high quality, hyper foundations, whoever recommended, sometimes it can still depends on your applying techniques. It still can have higher chance of getting cakiness on your face. But when you choose a better primer, you're obviously going to reduce the risk of getting cakiness from the foundation. Even your foundation can from drugstore. And nowadays, to be honest, from drugstores, the foundation's quality are very, very good. From Maybelline, from L'Oreal, they are very good foundations out there. So if you ask me to choose, I would recommend to choose slightly better primer to just help you apply foundation later on, rather than just go for very expensive foundations. Primer I'm going to use is a Florasis one. One was in UK. My favorite primer is from NARS. I can't remember the full name, but there is a white tube and a pink one. I like both of them. I think one is more for oily skin and one for like dry skin, but I use the both of them. I like both of them. So if you look for a high-end one, I recommend the NARS. When you apply primers, if you do have pores problems, I would recommend to use a pore filler like a Benefit one, which is everyone knows and very good, very effective as well. If you have dry skins, make sure you apply moisturizer or apply your hydrating primer slightly heavier in the area that you normally get dry skins. Then the opposite, that for the oily skins, you would selectively apply your primer, depends on the function of your primer. If it's pore minimizer, you rather just put in the area that you have bigger pores. If it's for hydrating, then try to put less amount into your T-zone and wherever you easy to get face oil. Here's what I've learned, that if you don't have too much skin troubles, you can just go for foundation straight away. Then we talk about concealer afterwards. If I find my dark circle in particular, if I have my dark circle is quite horrendous today, I would use a light orange based corrector to apply the eye dark circles before the foundation. But the easiest way is still use your foundation and then the concealer. So today that's what we're going to do as well. I will use a damp sponge. For the damp sponge, I think a lot of you probably learned, once you wet it, you dry it, you squeeze all the water out by your hand, and then on top of that, grab a couple of dry tissue like this, and then to squeeze out the extra waters inside of the sponge one more time. And then your sponge is soft, bouncy, very moist. That would be the best condition to apply foundation. Then when we apply foundation, I just spread out from middle under the eye, then spread out a little bit. Make sure towards the center is kind of the most heavy part would be towards center, and you spread it out. Then what I've learned is don't use a clean sponge, go onto it right away. It's better to spread out the foundation a little bit on the hand, like that. Okay, then use the sponge, then dip a little bit foundation onto it, then you press on the face. This is what I find is, if it's a clean foundation, you press on that, you pretty much soak up most of the foundations that you applied in the center. But if you have a little bit extra foundations on there already, it reduces the amount that your sponge is going to suck it up, basically. And another little tips of applying foundations, you will see millions of people suggesting different ways of applying foundations. After practice and tried all of them, what I feel the most easiest way is to have the sponge focus in the middle of your face first. Just continue bouncing. Don't move, don't think, just continue bouncing. Once you bounce about 30 to 40 times, then you start maneuver out. Then you start apply for the rest of the face. What I find this way is, A, it's very easy. You don't need extra technique to do this. And B is, you do feel the difference that, because I have big pores around here as well, you do find using this way, it's fill up the pores better, smoothen your skin, especially in the middle of your face, is better as well. And also, it makes your makeup looks very natural. Because once your face looks very smooth in the center of your face, your whole makeup will help to look more clean. And you guys can tell that I haven't reapplied any foundation yet. I pretty much done half face. Can you guys see the central? It looks way much smoother compared to this side. And then you just dip back into the foundation just to see wherever you get a little bit like unevenness for me, like above the brows, more about my forehead. Then you apply a little bit more. Again, focus in the center of the face. Keep bouncing. Then spread out. Easy dandy, right? Heaviest amount put in the center of the face. Then use your hand to spread out a little bit. Then this time you already had foundation on, so you don't need to dip back in again. Then bouncing in the middle of the face. Keep bouncing. While you're waiting, you can turn on your phone, go to YouTube, watch some of my videos. Well, that's what I do. I normally put a video on while I'm doing my makeup in the morning. The area you bounce is fairly smooth. Then you spread it out. Simple, right? It still gives you a very natural finish. And then you still have a little bit extra left. Here's my recommendations that if you don't have too many skin troubles, just use the same foundation, apply the area that you may have like tiny little bit spot marks or little bit, you want to smoothen out a little bit further, then you don't need a concealer. Just use the same foundation would do. When you use a sponge to smoothen out the second layer, make sure you use less pressure. It's not like a tiny little bit touch, but you are not bouncing as harder as your first time, because you want to build up some coverage, therefore you want them to stay on better. To be honest, like this, normally for a day-to-day look, I feel the coverage like this is already enough. But for today's purpose, I still want to talk about the concealer. You will see a lot of a concealer palette, you will see different correctors, you will see different liquid concealers. For beginners, I find the most friendly one is tart shaped concealer. let me explain. For concealer palette like this, to be honest, in the beginning, you'll be struggling with what color to apply to where. Secondly is the amount you're going to use. Those products, if you don't use it correctly in a way that it can easy to get creases, especially for under eye areas. I find the most easy one is to use liquid concealer. However, by trying a lot of different liquid concealer, every time I would still just go back and recommend Tarte shaped concealer. This concealer, just going to mention one thing, is a little goes a long way. Okay, little by little. I know you were seeing a lot of YouTubers just use the tip and the stripe for the under eye areas. You know, they have different conditions. If you're beginners as well, especially, just apply little by little and build it up, because you don't want to get a perfect foundation on, everything crease and cake it up after you using concealers, right? Tarte shaped concealer is very creamy, easy to be blended out, doesn't get creases, at least on my skin at all. And I've heard my friend who is also dry skin, it doesn't get creases on her as well. I find the coverage is perfect. The coverage is perfect. It's not too light and not too heavy. So for beginners, this will be a easy kind of no-brainer going. I would recommend to go for 2 shades, depends on your skin tone. Go for 1 shade, either match or slightly darker than your own skin tone, and go for another one slightly lighter than your skin tone. I'm light yellow skin tone, and these 2 colors I got, one is 22N, the other one is 12N, fair neutral. So fair neutral is like 1 shade, half shade lighter than my own skin tone. And the 22N is half shade darker than my skin tone. And those colors are easier to use compared to the palette. So what you normally do is you use slightly darker or matches your skin tones concealer to cover the spot marks and the troubles on your face. Use a slightly lighter color to highlight the center of your face. Easy dandy, right? I have a little bit of spots over here, so all I need to do is just dot it on tiny little bit. And I do have a little bit of dark circle that I use a little bit for the under eye. Then the easiest way to smudge out your concealer is just to use your finger. It is, I find personally, is the most effective, easiest, less technique required way to apply concealer. I know my eye bag is still here, but my dark circle is gone. And let me show you guys. There is no crease whatsoever. Right? Can you see? So the Tarte one even apply for the under eye area, it doesn't get crease up. For those little spots, for the Tarte shaped one, don't worry about it. You can let it dry a little bit in order to increase the coverage even further. You don't have to blend it out straight away. Now, of course, if you don't need to highlight the center of your face, you can just smudge it out right away. But I do need to highlight in the face a little bit. You know, the highlighting area, I've seen so many different makeup artists, YouTubers, and TikTok creators. They all teach you different things. You know, they all say use triangle shape, using C-circle, you tip up here, tip up there. To be honest, you do need a bit practice in order to achieve what they show you. If normal people like us, you just go for a daily go to work that you don't need to look that precise. The easiest way is to apply this area, okay? One is your T-zone. Less is more, okay? Your T-zone. Like that. Then just level up your eye bag. Here the same, level up your eye bag. And extend your eye back down a little bit. Extend your eye back down a little bit, like that. I have a slightly dark area is surround my mouth. Then just use a little bit. And then I use the same sponge which I applied the foundation to spread it out. I won't use a clean brush. I will use the same sponge. It's because you will still have a little bit of foundation left on that, right? Therefore, once it's melted in with the concealer, it will make to match your foundation better. Therefore, it doesn't make like white stripes everywhere. For the highlighting area, make sure that you are not apply this everywhere. It's not for the entire face. It's literally just for the area where you put concealer. Otherwise, you know, there is no point of highlighting the face, right? Then I'm going to just smudge out the spot marks that where I apply the concealer. Powder, I would recommend to choose a translucent powder to start with, because that's to reduce another chance of getting a wrong color. So I'm going to use the Florasis translucent powder. Mine is number 1. How I would apply powders: before you press the powder on, you need to face the mirror just to see if there is anywhere getting creases, especially for the under eye area and on your eyelid. If you see a line here, you make sure you use your finger to smudge out those creases first. Then you apply the powder, because once it's set, your creases are set as well. And the powders, when it's translucent powder, you just need to make sure it is fairly spread out on your puff. You don't need to go through too many techniques, but just have a look. One reason I really like Florasis, this one, is because the puff, it has color. So once you dip into the powder, you can actually see where your powder patches are. For example, this one is over here. So all you do, just use your hand to even it out. That's all you need to do. So once it's down, I apply the center of my face first. Then I go for under eye. Just press in. Press, leave, press, leave, the nose. So I focus from the center of my face first. I only press, yeah, I haven't like tap. And some of you probably asking me is, why don't you use a brush? To be honest, I've only changed to applying translucent powders by using a puff. I think it's from middle of last year. I so used to just to apply the powders with brush. I find that way is way much easier to use. It's very quick as well. But since I changed to puff, I find is because you can control it more precisely than the brush, especially for the under eye area. And secondly, I find it is to fill up your pores better to get more flawless and more smooth finish in comparison to brush. I haven't dipped back in yet. Then use whatever left on the puff. Then you start gently tap. It's still from center of your face, tap to the edges. If it's summertime, you can apply setting spray right now before you move on to anything else. But if it's wintertime, you don't have too much trouble in terms of face oils, then you can just continue. Then come to contour. Contour, I would highly recommend to go for a contour powder compared to a liquid contour product or cream contour product. Personally, well, some people may say one is easier than the other. After my self-practice, I still feel powder, it is way much easier to control, to maneuver, to correct, most importantly, than other type of formulation. So for contouring area, as you guys know, like how much contour means to me because of my own face shape, I've learned so many different contour ways. Somebody says use a 3 shape like that, and different YouTubers recommend to start from the highest point of your cheek. Currently in China, the most famous way of teaching you where to highlight and contour is to use a mobile lighting from downwards, upwards, left hand side, right hand side. I just feel that too complicated. So I find the best way, especially if you're beginners, you don't know where to start. The best way is you use your hand to hold your face like you touch your own face like that. And then make sure your finger is touch the edge of your ear like that. When you're facing the mirror, you only see the side of your hand. So the area that your hand covered on your face, that's the area you need to apply your contour. And dip into the suitable contour color. So now I know my area, how you're going to apply. The easiest way is to get the darkest color towards the back of your face, then going inwards. So you start from, side of your ear, then sweep inwards like that. Again, the darkest color goes in. Apply the side where it goes in. Just continue doing the same motion. It's not doing like this, yeah? It's not up and down. It's only up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, like this. And from your chin, do you guys see the shade of your chin, under your chin, this area? Make sure the darkest color is follow the line, like that. Once you apply the shade under your jaw, then you're going inside out. Just do like that. And make sure the area, it doesn't go over where you covered by your hand, right? So from the sideways to here, the furthest you can go is over here. Then your forehead the same. The darkest color goes into your hair, then going outwards. Go into your hair, going outwards. Go into your hair, going outwards. And I find the use this way is kind of works with most of the face structure. We do the nose contour after we done the eyes. For us who just starting makeups, I would highly recommend to go for something more natural based. Do you like color? Yes, you do. Can you use color? Yes, you do. But after you feel comfortable of applying or use different colors in which areas of your own eyes, when you feel comfortable to do that, then you can change to different colors. Otherwise, you may accidentally make you like being punched by somebody. So always safer to start with something neutral. Here I recommend a few eyeshadow palettes for you guys. And two is more on the drugstore price line. One is BBS. You guys probably seen these eyeshadow palettes for so many times as well. Let me open. BBS eyeshadow palettes like this, and this color is 04 Grand Combo. Although there are 8 colors in this palette, but you won't make any mistakes with any of the colors. It's very, very friendly for beginners. And the other one, keep dropping things. The other one is from EVERBAB. EVERBAB, I think is what called. And this is they call full face palette. Can you guys see? This palette adds slightly like more colorful colors in there, but it's not like high pigment. Let me just put these two palettes next to each other. So this was only 6 colors. This is only 8 colors. If you find it a bit too complicated of this one, then go for something like this, or go for colors of 4 or 2. The less is better, basically. Today I'm going to use this palette, as this one never appeared in any of my videos. If you're interested in me how to use this palette, check out my description box. I will link those videos that use this palette in my description box. Those two, highly recommend if you work towards a budget. If you want to start with something high-end, I would recommend this two. One is from Tom Ford and one is from Dior. Tom Ford, this one will be quick, in my favorites as well. 31. This is Tom Ford palette, 31. Very, very friendly for beginners. Very easy to apply. It's not extreme high pigment, very easy to manage and to correct as well. Highly recommend. And the other one is from Dior. This is their Backstage eyeshadow palette 001 Warm Neutrals. It's a Dior's one.